Ah, you've arrived. No need for names, no need for introductions. The less we know of each other, the safer we remain. You are here, I am here, that is enough. The candle burns, the servo skull watches, the book remains closed until you are ready. What you hear today was never meant to be spoken, but I speak nonetheless. Garviel Loken's story is one of loyalty, betrayal, and redemption set against the backdrop of the galaxy's greatest civil war, the Horus Heresy. Once a proud captain of the Lunar Wolves and a member of the Mournival, Loken stood at the heart of the Imperium's most trusted circle. But when Horus fell to chaos, Loken's world was shattered. This episode traces his journey from the Great Crusade through the Istvan III atrocity, his descent into madness, and his rebirth as a knight-errant. Through covert missions, personal loss, and moments of haunting clarity, Loken emerges as a symbol of resilience and truth. Though his final fate remains unknown, his legacy endures as one of the Imperium's most tragic and heroic figures. Chapter 1. The Loyal Wolf. From the earliest days of the Great Crusade, Garviel Loken distinguished himself through courage, strength, and a quiet integrity that set him apart. Mentored by the charismatic Captain Tarik Torgadon, Loken was groomed not just as a warrior, but as a leader, and eventually inducted into the Mournival, the Warmaster Horus's inner circle of trusted advisors. His induction followed the Lunar Wolves campaign on 6319, a world brought into Imperial compliance under Loken's command. It was here that the veil between reality and the immaterium thinned, and Loken faced his first true brush with chaos. A demonic voice named Samus infiltrated the Legion's Vox network, and Sergeant Xavier Jubal of Loken's own 10th Company became possessed, transforming into a grotesque monstrosity. Loken was forced to kill his brother in arms, an act that shook his faith in the Imperial truth and planted seeds of doubt that would grow in the years to come. Despite this, Loken's role in the Mournival was clear. He was the Naismith, the calm voice of reason, meant to challenge Horus when needed. Unlike his peers, he bore no facial resemblance to the Warmaster, a symbolic reminder of his independent mind. His position granted him rare access to Horus's thoughts and plans, and for a time Loken believed in the mission of the Great Crusade with all his heart. Chapter 2. The Fire of Betrayal. The Istvan III atrocity marked the moment Garviel Loken's loyalty was tested beyond measure and ultimately betrayed. After Horus's healing at the hands of the Chaos cultists of the Serpent Lodge, the Warmaster emerged transformed, consumed by jealousy, egotism, and hatred for the Emperor. He had given his soul to the Chaos Gods in exchange for power, and now sought to purge his ranks of those who would not follow him into damnation. Under the pretense of suppressing a rebellion led by the slain she-corrupted planetary governor, Vardis Prawl, Loken, Tarik Torgadon, and roughly one-third of the Astartes from the sons of Horus, Emperor's children, World Eaters, and Death Guard were deployed to the surface of Istvan III. In truth, they had been marked for death. Horus ordered a bombardment of Life Eater virus bombs from orbit, intending to annihilate the Loyalists in one swift stroke. A last-minute warning from Captain Saul Tarvitz allowed some, including Loken and Torgadon, to seek shelter and survive the initial plague and firestorm that followed. Yet many Loyalists perished, either caught in the blast or emerging too soon from cover. With Horus's betrayal now undeniable, Loken and the survivors reclaimed the name Lunar Wolves and mounted a desperate resistance. For nearly 2 months, they fought a defensive war, hoping to bleed the traitor legions and send word of Horus's treachery to the Emperor. The final confrontation came when Horus Aximand and Ezekiel Abaddon descended to the surface. Loken faced Abaddon in brutal combat, fighting with all his strength, but ultimately falling to grievous wounds. As Horus's fleet unleashed a final orbital bombardment, the Loyalist resistance was crushed. By some miracle, or the Emperor's will, Loken survived. Months later, long after the traitor legions had moved on, he clawed his way out of the rubble of Coral City. But the trauma had shattered his mind. He no longer remembered who he was, and took on a new name: Cerberus, the Hound who guards the gates of the underworld. Believing death had rejected him, he haunted the ruins of Istvan III, hunting down other survivors and convinced he was the last Loyalist space marine alive. Chapter 3: The Hound in the Ruins. Loken's descent into madness as Cerberus continued until Battle Captain Nathaniel Garrow, formerly of the Death Guard and now Agentia Primus under Malcador the Sigillite, returned to Istvan III. Sent by Malcador on the Emperor's orders, Garrow's mission was to find Loken and recruit him into the Knights Errant, a covert band of loyalist Astartes destined to become the foundation of the Imperial Inquisition. Garrow and his team encountered scattered survivors who spoke of a monstrous beast that hunted them through the ruins. Following the trail, Garrow discovered the corpse of Tarek Torgadon and was immediately attacked by the feral, nearly psychotic Cerberus. The battle was fierce, and Cerberus escaped into the shadows. Further investigation revealed that the survivors were not human at all, but demon hosts, plague zombies of Nurgle, twisted by the virus bombing and the weakened barrier between reality and the immaterium. Garrow and his team fought the corrupted creatures, aided unexpectedly by Cerberus himself. After the battle, Garrow once again confronted Cerberus. In a final clash, Garrow broke through the shattered psyche of the beast, reminding him of his true identity and purpose. The name Garviel Loken resurfaced, and with it, the loyal warrior who had once stood beside Horus. Reclaimed from madness, Loken joined Garrow and the Knights Errant. Together, they departed Istvan, 3 for Luna, where Malcador awaited with their first mission, a new war not for conquest, but for the soul of the Imperium. Chapter 4: The Trial of Truth. Loken arrived at the Somnus Citadel, not as a hero, but as a broken remnant of war, a madman dragged from the ruins of Istvan III by Nathaniel Garrow. His body was battered, his mind fractured, and his soul weighed down by guilt and trauma. But the greatest threat to his survival came not from blades or bolts, but from suspicion. Could he be trusted? Could any warrior endure what he had and remain loyal? Had Horus left him behind as a trap, a ticking time bomb to infiltrate the Imperium's heart? These questions haunted the halls of Terra. Powerful voices spoke in his defense. Garrow, Malcador, and, Loken suspected, Rogel Dorn, the Castellan of Terra himself. Yet others, nameless and cautious, saw him as a danger. What followed was a period of intense interrogation, both physical and psychological, designed to uncover any trace of corruption. Loken later realized he had come closer to death during those interrogations than in any battlefield. His interrogators did not wield weapons. They wielded doubt, fear, and suspicion. They sought not to kill him, but to erase him. He endured, not because he was unbroken, but because the truth of his loyalty ran deeper than the scars he bore. Though he had walked through madness and ruin, he emerged with purpose. The Imperium had not cast him aside, and now it would need him more than ever. Chapter 5: The Shadows of Calliban. Now a knight-errant under Malcador the Sigillite, Garviel Loken was dispatched on his first mission to the homeworld of the Dark Angels, Calliban. Accompanied by his old Luna Wolves comrade Iacton Cruz, their task was to assess the loyalty and strength of the First Legion and its Primarch, Lion L. Johnson. To gain insight, Loken infiltrated the fortress monastery of Alderuk and allowed himself to be captured. Shackled and interrogated by Caliban's regent, Luther, Loken gave only the name Cerberus. Yet, Luther recognized his Chthonian accent and deduced his origins as a former lunar wolf. Memories of past battles, Cardenseen and Zaramund, flooded Loken's mind. Luther remained uncertain of Loken's identity and questioned why one legion would spy on another. This revealed his ignorance of the wider heresy. Though Loken longed to speak the truth, he sensed darkness surrounding Calliban and feared its eventual fall. Luther left unsatisfied. Later, a watcher in the dark, a mysterious hooded Xenos, appeared in Loken's cell. Through telepathy, it granted Loken insight into Luther's emotions, ambition, resentment, and ignorance. The creature freed Loken and urged him to report what he had seen to Dorn and Malkador. During his escape, Loken was confronted by a cloaked figure wielding a power blade, Lord Cypher. Recognizing Loken, Cypher aided his escape. When they encountered a Dark Angel sentry, Cypher ordered restraint, but Cruz executed the guard without hesitation. Loken was furious, fearing this act might sway the Legion's loyalty. Cruz dismissed the concern, hardened by years of war. With Cypher's help, the Knights Errant escaped Alderuk. Though they failed to confirm the Lion's allegiance, they uncovered something more valuable: Cypher himself. Aware of the Heresy's scope, Cypher declined Cruz's offer to join Malkador's agents. He chose instead to serve the Emperor from the shadows, loyal but unseen. Chapter 6: The Garden of Ghosts. Following the failed mission to Calliban, Loken returned to the Somnus Citadel on Luna, the fortress monastery of the Silent Sisterhood. Though the Primarch Rogaldorn had already received Cruz's report via astropathic transmission, he still met with Loken in person, hoping for some nuance that might redeem the Dark Angels. None came. Loken's heart broke at having disappointed the Emperor's Praetorian. Disillusioned with Malkador's endless schemes, Loken withdrew from the Sigillite's web of secrets. Though he had survived Istvan III, his sanity was a fragile mask over deep trauma. He retreated into isolation, spending his days in a neglected lunar biodome, once tended by a silent sister, long dead on Prospero. There, among wild overgrowth and forgotten beauty, Loken found a semblance of peace. He tended a small garden, not as a warrior, but as a man seeking meaning beyond war. The word peace was alien to him, yet the act of creation offered a quiet refuge from the madness that had nearly consumed him. One day, while tending the garden, Loken was visited by a familiar figure, Tarik Torgadon. At first, Loken believed him a hallucination, a ghost conjured by his fractured mind. But as they spoke, memories long buried began to surface. Torgadon reminded Loken of the Mournival oath, to serve the Emperor above all, to uphold the truth, and to stand firm against all enemies. The garden itself mirrored the water garden where Loken had once sworn that oath. Torgadon's presence rekindled Loken's purpose, unlocking memories of murder, Davin, the Interrex, and Istvan III. He remembered it all and knew he could no longer hide from it. Before departing, Torgadon urged Loken to take control of his actions. Whether real or imagined, his message was clear. Loken was still a lunar wolf, and nothing was more dangerous than a cornered wolf. Soon after, Iacton Cruz arrived with a summons from Malkador. Reinvigorated by Torgadon's visit, Loken accepted. Though he feared the lingering damage to his mind, he was ready to serve again, wounded, but not broken. Chapter 7: The Blade Against the Warmaster. Upon returning to Terra, Garviel Loken was entrusted with a daring mission by Malkador the Sigillite and Leman Russ, Primarch of the Space Wolves. Their plan: infiltrate Horus's flagship, the Vengeful Spirit, then in orbit above Moloch, and prepare the way for a full-scale assault led by the Wolf King himself. The objective was clear: kill the arch-traitor. Loken assembled a squad of knights-errant for the task: Tylos Rubio, Macer Varen, Iacton Cruz, Rama Karayan, Ares Wojtek, Altan Nohai, Callion Zaven, Tubal Cain, and Bror Tyrfinger, son of Leman Russ. He also attempted to recruit Severian, another Luna Wolf, who initially refused but later joined the mission. Aboard the stealth vessel Tarnhelm, the squad infiltrated the massive Gloriana-class warship undetected. Guided by Tubal Cain's sensors and strategy, they planted Futhark runes throughout the vessel to aid the coming Space Wolves' assault. Their presence was eventually discovered, and fierce skirmishes erupted. Some knights-errant fell in battle, and the survivors were captured and brought before Horus in Lupercal's court. There, Horus attempted to sway Loken back to his side. Though tempted, Loken stood firm, recalling his oath to the Emperor. The confrontation sparked chaos. The knights-errant turned on their captors, and in the ensuing battle, more lives were lost. The Tarnhelm shattered the chamber's windows, allowing the survivors to be sucked into the void and rescued. Varen, Wojtek, and a rescued ultramarine centurion named Proximo Tarkin were placed in healing comas. Rubio recovered slowly. On the journey back to Terra, Bror Tyrfinger and Severian reassured Loken that the mission's failure was not his burden alone. Chapter 8: The Price of Defiance. In the final days before the siege of Terra, Loken returned to the throne world alongside fellow knights-errant Nathaniel Garrow, Macer Varen, Vardus Ison, and Halig Galor. Their mission: suppress outbreaks of chaos infestation erupting across Terra. Loken was assigned to oversee a secretive operation at the White Mountain, an ancient subterranean fortress buried in a barren, irradiated region. Malcador had ordered that a group of Sisters of Silence, rescued after torture by Chaos, be held there for study. But the sisters were part of a deeper plot, a psychic trigger embedded in knight-errant Tylos Rubio by Erebus of the Word-Bearers. As Chaos cultists and the Nurgle demon known as the Lord of Flies assaulted the fortress, Rubio's conditioning activated. He attacked Malcador, who was temporarily stripped of his psychic powers by the fortress's anti-psyker field. The Sigilite survived using a hidden conversion field and purged the corruption from Rubio's mind. Outside, Loken and the Knights-Errant fought to repel the Chaos forces. Macer Varen was mortally wounded and possessed by the Lord of Flies. But when Loken confronted him, invoking their bond and shared defiance, Varen resisted the demon's control. In a final act of will, he seized grenades from Loken's armor and destroyed himself, banishing the demon. Malcador arrived and incinerated the remaining plague flies with his restored psychic might. The battle was won, but at great cost. Loken had once again faced the abyss and reminded even the damned of who they truly were. Chapter 9: The Name Refused. Shortly after the battle at White Mountain, Loken and 8 other knights-errant were summoned to a hidden chamber deep beneath the Imperial Palace. There, they met the Emperor himself. The Emperor revealed that these 9 warriors were chosen to become the founders of a new order, one that would stand against the horrors of the warp and protect humanity from chaos. To do so, each Astartes would need to abandon their past, take on a new name, and begin again. Loken was offered the name Creus, a mantle of leadership among the future Grey Knights. But as he stood before the Emperor, he knew this path was not his. He could not cast off the weight of his past, not yet. The betrayal of Horus still burned within him, and he needed to face the sons of Horus one final time. He declined the name. He returned to the surface, And though he would not become Creus, he remained Garviel Loken, a warrior of truth, forged in betrayal and ready for the final reckoning to come. Garviel Loken's journey is one of loyalty, trauma, and resilience. From the heights of the Great Crusade to the depths of madness on Istvan III, he endured betrayal, isolation, and the horrors of chaos. Yet through it all, he remained true to the ideals of the Imperium and the oath he swore as a member of the Mournival. He rejected the chance to become Creus, choosing instead to confront the sons of Horus during the Siege of Terra. But what happened to Loken after those final battles remains unknown. The lore does not confirm his death, survival, or any further role in the Imperium's future. Perhaps he fell in the final defense of the palace. Perhaps he lived on in obscurity. Or perhaps, like so many heroes of the Heresy, his fate was swallowed by the silence of history. What remains is his legacy, a Luna Wolf who stood firm when all others fell, a warrior who chose truth over power, and a name that echoes still in the hearts of those who remember what loyalty truly means. And so the tale ends. Garviel Loken, warrior, exile, loyal to the last, his fate unknown, his legacy undeniable, the candle gutters. The record fades. You were not meant to know, but now you do.
Incoming transmission.
If you liked this video, please remember to like and subscribe. Also hit the bell icon to never miss a future episode. Thank you for watching. Until we meet again.